I had the extreme honor of interviewing one of my very favorite authors of over 20 years. This author is so well known in the Boston area, has had so many of his novels turned into epic movies that you've definitely heard of. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you my one-on-one interview with him. But I have to tell you the story of how we got there. So let's make a YouTube video. Back in my early 20s, Dennis Lehane became one of my favorite authors literally overnight. Mystic River is a really popular movie that you guys probably have seen, and I remember reading that physical novel and literally falling in love as I turned the pages. And it was the very first book I had ever read from cover to back cover in one sitting. I think I stayed up to like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it started this like love affair with Dennis Lehane novels. I went out and bought them and just read and consumed all of them so quickly. Some of my favorites were Shutter Island. I'm obsessed with Shutter Island. I'm sure you guys have probably seen that movie. Gone Baby Gone. I love his historical novel. I just loved his short stories, Coronado. Like, I just have really had a deep love affair with the way that he writes and the way that he ties in Boston history as well. In 2014, I got a random phone call that was like, hey, Dennis Lehane is down at the town hall right now doing a book signing. And I was so confused because I lived in a really small town called Stoneham, and it just didn't make sense why Dennis Lehane would randomly, like during the week in the middle of the day, be doing a book signing at our town hall. I had never heard of anything like that before, but we were just coming off of the Boston Marathon bombing, and 3 kids from my town that I grew up with all lost their leg in the second bomb. And it was really this unbelievable community that wrapped around these kids and created this unbelievable like camaraderie between perfect strangers to raise money and to really do whatever we could to support the kids that we grew up with. And so Dennis Lehane ended up being a part of that. He was actually doing a fundraiser with his book signing at our town hall. And I remember getting that phone call and running over to the town hall. I like literally ran there and was like, oh my God, I get to meet Dennis Lehane. I was the saddest girl ever because the photo that I ended up getting was so blurry because we didn't have digital cameras back then, you know? It was like just a quick picture and you couldn't tell if someone's finger was going to be over the lens or not. And that's what happened to me. So it was still a decent picture, but it was blurry because somebody's finger was like half over the lens. And I still like cherish that photo to this day. I still have my signed copies from Dennis Lehane. And I actually ended up being on the front page of our newspaper to talk about how Dennis Lehane came and did this fundraiser. Fast forward all of these years later, and now we're in 2025, and I get this email from an agency called Saylor. This email said, we need you to sign an NDA so that we can send you an email. And I'm like, what? They're like, there's this opportunity. We can't tell you one thing about it. We can't tell you about the client. We can't tell you what it's going to be. All we can do is just have you sign this NDA and then tell you about this opportunity. And we can't guarantee that the opportunity is going to be yours. I don't know what to do. So we sign the NDA and immediately get a response email that says, we have an opportunity in Los Angeles for Kelly to come out and film with Apple TV and Dennis Lehane. What is even happening right now? So we start going back and forth, and it ended up that the opportunity was very much real. I was invited to go out to LA to be part of a roundtable discussion with Dennis Lehane about his brand new show that's coming out on Apple TV called Smoke. This all originated from a podcast called Firebug. And in this podcast, this gentleman goes over all of this story about a serial arsonist in California. And it is a true story, a real true crime story. And it was honestly insane the way that this guy implicated himself because he wrote a manuscript about his crimes. It's really truly an awesome podcast to listen to. I highly suggest it. And I became so obsessed with the podcast knowing that I was going to meet Dennis and talk about this show Smoke that is based off of this podcast of this man who was a serial arsonist in California. So I listened to the podcast. I actually purchased the manuscript that this guy wrote. There was a movie made back in the day, an HBO movie made back in the day that had Ray Liotta in it. The movie was absolutely terrible, but like I was like, I have to watch this. I have to learn everything about it. And we were gifted the first 4 episodes of this show called Smoke that Dennis was writing, producing, directing, doing the whole thing for. I was so enthralled with it, and I was like sitting there taking notes, like following every little thing. I love to find Easter eggs, and I love to, just find things that I would actually have questions about, and to have the opportunity to sit with Dennis Lehane and actually ask him the questions that I had about the show was such an immense opportunity. So I flew to LA with 3 other content creators. I got to kind of lead the discussion of the roundtable. I'm so excited for them to put this out so that you guys can see absolutely everything. And I don't want to give away everything that we talked about because I'm about to show you the full interview. And I have to say, he was so cool. He was just the chillest guy I have ever met in my life. He's so laid back, he's so funny, and he just has those Boston vibes because that's where he, grew up, and that's where he gets a lot of his inspiration from for his novels. So I highly suggest you picking up some of his novels, Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone. And I literally asked him, I'm like, can you tell me if Teddy from Shutter Island is actually crazy or not? And he was like, I can never tell you that answer. Nobody can tell you that answer. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. He's like, my wife and my daughters are the only ones who know the answer to that. And I was like, well, I come with a lot of makeup, so maybe I can bribe them someday. And what I love about Smoke is that he had creative freedom on it. So it is loosely based on the serial arsonist from California. It is not the specific timeline. So he has a lot of fun with it. And I think you're going to really fall in love with the characters. So, such an honor. I just feel like it was such a full circle moment. And I think one more time in my lifetime, I might have this opportunity to be in front of Dennis Lehane again. I don't know what that opportunity is going to be in the future, but this was such a full circle moment. I feel like it needs like one more full circle to the end. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the interview and let me know what you think of it. So, we've actually met before.
Where?
In Stoneham, Massachusetts.
Stoneham.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to high school in Stoneham, and when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, 3 friends that I grew up with lost their leg in the bomb. And you came and did a book signing there.
Okay.
And I lived right around the corner, and I remember being like, Dennis Lehane is in Stoneham. It felt really weird. I don't know why. It's like, it felt small town to me,
Stoneham.
I know, it's like Stoneham. And so I ran over and was able to come into the book signing, which I was really excited about. And I was like, wanted to take a picture. And so someone took a picture for me with the finger over the lens. And I was like, oh, of all pictures. But the local newspaper took a photo and put it on the front page.
No way.
So we've been in the news together, actually.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay.
So I'm curious what brought you to Stoneham. Like, was there any connection to the marathon or just being a part of like Boston Strong in general?
Oh, that's all it would have been. I mean, I got some friends in Stoneham, but I don't remember any connection. I think it would have all just been, connection to, we were all together during that period.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was there right across the street when the first bomb went off, the second bomb went off. It was a pretty wild moment to be in Boston when that happened, for sure.
I bet.
Okay, so I have a question. Between Joe, Patrick, and Dave, your 3 male characters that you have, who would you invite to dinner?
Patrick. Dave. Who's Dave?
Dave from Smoke.
Dave from Smoke?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What about Jimmy Keene? Who would I invite to dinner?
Like, who'd you like to have a beer with?
Probably Patrick.
Yeah, I like Patrick.
Yeah, he's the most likable.
Yeah, he totally is. I love that. Okay, so they want me to film something before we get into our interview part for TikTok, basically, to finish
TikTok
doing
for
it. Yeah.
Kids.
So I know. I was making a video and I said, I'm coming to meet you today. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to ask you if you can wrap up Smoke in 15 seconds or less.
If I can wrap up Smoke in 15 seconds?
Or give me the premise of Smoke in 15 seconds or less. What to expect.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, you guys, we made it, and I am sitting here with the Dennis Lehane, and I need you to wrap up what Smoke is in 15 seconds or less.
Fire, chaos, more chaos, obsession, addiction, madness.
just pure chaos in totality.
Yes.
Love it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, that's the awkward part. Okay, so there's a scene in Smoke that I'm curious about where Ashley says that she wants to see the manuscript be less dude-centric.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of got like, it was like a quick scene. I feel like it could have been like a little bit more elaborate because I know that he's like so masculine and he doesn't really want to have that feminine energy around him. Mm-hmm. So why would she bring that up and it be kind of looked over kind of quickly?
There's more. There's more to come. I mean, Ashley's a librarian, so there's a game we're playing with exactly how much truth she's telling and how much she's just being polite. And
interesting.
And that comes into play in a big way. What's in the 4th episode, which you've seen?
Yeah, I have.
It's in the 4th episode.
Yeah, when they have that big blowout fight.
I'm a effing librarian. She says, I know when something's good.
You suck, basically, is what she said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she's saying what I think, 80% of all book buyers are women, and so I came of age in a genre when it was finally starting to not be male dominated. I mean, it was still male dominated, but the women were starting to really knock down the walls.
Right.
And it was interesting to watch the men's reaction to that.
I agree.
The older guys.
Yeah, I feel like Book Talk, like the book community that we're all a part of is same. Like that female dominance hasn't quite happened yet, and all the best sellers and the best thrillers are all male written but female reviewed.
In your world now?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it as, I mean, when I think about, some of the biggest authors right now, they're in crime fiction, they're women.
I love it. I love crime fiction. It's like my favorite ever. Mystic River was the first book that I ever read from front to back in one sitting.
Oh, wow.
There's been very few books that I've sat and like had to consume the whole thing at one time. I remember I lived in a trailer behind a drive-in movie theater in Laconia, New Hampshire. As I had my first property that I owned, and I was reading the book. My friends were like, come on out, meet us at the bar. I'm like, I can't put the book down. It was so incredible. It was so realistic to Boston.
Yeah.
Like it was just every single thing, and the adaptation of the movie too was like almost perfect to the book. What is your favorite novel to movie adaptation that has happened for you?
For me?
Yeah.
I can't say.
Really?
Yeah, because then you're insulting the other ones.
Oh, okay. I can respect that.
No, you can never do
what was the most fun one to make?
Mystic, because it was my first, and because Clint Eastwood was extremely adamant that I be on set as much as possible. So he really brought me in and made me feel like I was part of that community that made that movie, to which I will be forever grateful. And I learned a lot. I learned how to be a showrunner watching him run a film production.
Can you explain for the people who maybe don't know what a showrunner is, exactly what that means?
A showrunner is...
That's a new term I literally just learned today.
It's the guy who runs the show. It's the woman who runs the show. A showrunner is somebody who is in charge of supervising all the creative aspects of a show.
Okay.
That's what he does, or she does. And so you are in charge of, there's different ways you can do it. And I remember when I was first considering doing it, I was a little nervous because I was like, I'm not like an authority figure. I don't like really lean into that. I've never wanted to be a leader.
Interesting.
I'm very kind of just independent, iconoclastic, off doing my own thing. And so it was kind of like, what am I going to bring to this table? Because I thought, I'd have to come in and kick ass and be like a general, and also I'm not a micromanager. I couldn't micromanage anyone. I can't even micromanage my kids. And so I was like, what am I bringing to this then? And I realized really early on, my big plan was hire people who are just go find the very best people you can find. Every single position. Cast it as if it is of utmost importance,
right?
No matter what it is. And then if you've hired the best people you could get, the best people out there, hopefully, then give them as much agency as possible. Just give them support. Just say, hey, I'm here for you. You need me, and that's what I did. And it worked like a charm. And then so I did it for Blackbird, and then I did it again for Smoke. Same thing, worked like a charm. And everybody knows at the end of the day that it's not the same thing as being like, oh, anything goes. Like, there'll be times where I'll be like, no. And they'll be like, why? And I'll be like, because it's not
just not what I want.
It's not how I see it.
Yeah.
And, okay. Because if you, a lot of other times you're going, great idea. Oh, that was cool. Never would have saw that coming.
Right.
Thanks a lot. Like, thanks. Well, you just really saved me here. Like, then they appreciate that.
Maybe it's like you let them have their creative freedom
That's
to
what
a
you
degree,
want.
and then finally, when you are just adamant about something, it's an easy yes.
It's an easy because they just go, well, he's not micromanaging us.
Yeah.
So if he says 100%, no, it has to be this way, then it has to be this way.
Personally, I think that's great leadership. Like you say, you don't want to be a leader, but I think that's exactly what a leader is.
I finally understood.
Letting other people shine. Almost.
Yeah, that's the type of that. There's different types of leaders.
Yeah, there are.
And that's the type. Definitely the type I am.
Love that.
So.
I loved the podcast. The podcast was super interesting. So coming to watch the first 4 episodes, it was vastly different for me.
Yeah.
And Point of Origin, the movie was made out of that with Ray Liotta.
And John Leguizamo.
Yes, and I couldn't get through the movie. It was a pretty bad movie. Ray Liotta is amazing. I couldn't even get through the movie or the manuscript. It was hard to try to read the manuscript. I got through like 2 chapters.
I got
it was
2
so
pages.
Bad. So bad. But I'm curious, did you know that smoke was going to happen when you were working with Ray on Blackbird? And did you get any insight about John Orr and him playing that character to bring to smoke? Like kind of like a full circle moment? No,
because Carrie Antholis, who did the podcast, he was behind Point of Origin when he was at HBO. And so it was an HBO movie. And so John Orr is his obsession. It's been his obsession for 30 years.
Long time.
We're on the set of Blackbird. Ray comes out of his trailer, walking over to me, and Carrie says, oh, Ray, I'm Carrie Antholis. I was actually the executive on Point of Origin. And Ray goes, okay. And starts talking. like Ray just...
Next.
Ray had done so much stuff.
Yeah.
It was not... We had a conversation just before he died where I said, I'm figuring out something for you in Smoke. I'll let you know. It wasn't called Smoke then. And I said, I'm figuring out something in my next project. I'll let you know once I have it. And he was like, no problem. Like we had agreed that we were going to work together on everything. So he was just he was my favorite actor. So that's my dream come true to get him into Blackbird was,
that's awesome.
So it's the last thing he ever said to me. This is so Ray too. The last thing he ever said to me, he says, make it a big part.
That's so nostalgic, I bet. Oh, man, that's kind of heartbreaking in a way, Yeah, I love Ray Liotta. My husband and I are just starting to watch Blackbird, so we're not like fully into it, but so far from what I've seen the first 3 episodes,
magnificent.
He really is just like such an incredible actor.
Yeah. So he did not, I'm not a big source material guy. I don't like to be locked in. And that's the one thing creatively I do not like. So Blackbird was really hard for me to do because I was stuck to the
following
facts.
The timeline.
Yeah, I had to follow the facts for the most part. I mean, I took liberties, but I still had to follow what actually happened.
The actual true story, not inspired by the true story.
So that's a big difference. And after I did Blackbird, that's why when Carrie Antholis brought this to me, I said, I'll use a little of it, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I need to tell my story. I want to tell this crazy, crazy story, and it's not the story that you have.
It's very loosely based, in my opinion.
It's not.
Yeah.
I would say there's about 8% of Firebug in my show.
Yeah, all of it.
So.
Well, actually, speaking of that, so with Firebug, when you first listened to it, would you say you listened to it multiple times, or?
No, I listened to it once.
One time. I've only listened to it one time too, and at the end, he's still claiming his innocence.
Right, and
Were you just like, hard no, you're not innocent?
No. I knew he wasn't innocent, but then I went and I watched footage of him with Carrie. Carrie had all this incredible footage of him, and I sat with Carrie and I watched some footage of him, and he asked him a direct question about it, and for a minute, Orr's eyes went down, and you could see for 1 second he saw himself, just 1 second, and he popped back up, and then he was just kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said to Carrie, I said, did you see that?
Interesting.
And he was like, no, what do you mean? What does see what? I said, watch, do it again, rewind. Watch him do that.
Like a body language
Watch
moment.
his eyes go inward. And when he goes inward, you can see guilt. And he looked, and he was like, I've seen this footage 100 times.
You probably changed his whole perspective. I know.
No, he's like, I've seen this footage like 100 times. I never saw that. And I was like, well, I'm watching it fresh. You've seen it 100 times. I wouldn't see it. So I just said, this is a guy who is in complete denial about himself.
Truly.
Which is a vast majority of, I think, human beings, to be honest with you. And so I just said, let's play with that. Let's play with denial. Let's play with somebody who honestly can't see themselves. And if you go through the show, and you notice how many times we play around mirrors.
You do.
We dance around mirrors, kind of have people just kind of moving right on the outskirt of a mirror. Dave never looks in the mirror.
I notice things like that. Like, that's my favorite thing about watching a show or a movie, is like to pick up on the little things that you may not notice that maybe make sense in the end. And one of the first things that I notice is the perspective of the camera, like opening the fridge, like you're inside looking in, you're inside, like getting a private view of their life, and you know, that introspective view in a way. And I totally noticed that.
That was not, the fridge shot was not mine. That was Sam and Kari.
It's like all right there too. It's like
she does amazing. She does an amazing job in that episode. Yeah.
Oh, it's just such a cool like perspective.
And the scene where Dave says that tells her that he's written 2 chapters in 3 days. That scene is shot through the mirror.
And then through the computer screen too.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of
stuff coming through things. But
Yeah.
you never. It's the 6th episode is the first time you'll ever see Dave look in a mirror.
Oh, and I'm going to have to look for that now.
You won't miss it.
That was a spoiler. No, I'm just kidding. I did notice there's a scene when they're like out to dinner and she goes to like grab his hand and he kind of like pulls his hand away and he like kind of looks around. I'm like, what is he looking for? Like, why wouldn't he want to hold his wife's hand?
I wouldn't know this. I think there's 2 movements like that in that scene, and I know it's meant to be. I think the way the scene plays, we didn't write it this way, but it's meant. You feel it certainly is that she's got him turned on. She's turned on. She's turned on by the fact that he's a writer.
Right.
And so he's realizing, oh, this is like almost a sexual moment, and then he just can't kind of.
He like closes in on himself.
Yeah, he's like kind of like, well, let's order. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
So it's more like that. All right. Got it.
Yeah.
Because obviously this guy is like so turned on from Flame. It's insane.
Well, it's not just that. He never. This was Taryn's decision. He never kisses anybody on the lips in the entire show. He never kisses either of the women.
Interesting.
It's not just his wife. You meet somebody else later.
Okay.
And he never kisses them on the lips.
I didn't notice that in the scene where she was like, do you want your pill? And he's like, no, I'm good. I didn't even notice that. And that's his wife.
That's his wife.
And so how much do you let the actors like ad-lib and kind of do their own
No
thing?
ad-libbing. There's what we do is I let them talk to me and say, hey, I want to do this. Or can I ad-lib this line?
Yeah.
And I go, sure.
Okay.
You know, if I like the line. So the line where she says, do I have to watch my language on this, or can you just?
I don't think so. I mean, we're from Boston.
She says, you know, her big line where she's ripping him for his book, I'm a fucking librarian, that whole thing. So her line was supposed to be, fuck you, and then storm out. And then Hannah, the actress, who was amazing and who I had total faith in, she reached out and said, can I add and fuck your fake fucking glasses? And I said, sure.
And then he takes them off.
Oh, yeah.
And like nobody even knew they were fake glasses until that moment. Oh my God, it was so good.
And the glasses are Taryn's idea. Taryn came up to me like the first day of shooting, and he said, I got this idea, mate. What if every time he's writing, he's wearing glasses? But they're not prescription, you know what I mean?
Just looks super astute.
Yeah.
I loved that with her because she's like, it feels like she's holding so much back as a mom.
That's what we wanted.
And I'm a mom of 2 boys. Yeah. So I'm watching her go through this turmoil of like, maybe this marriage wasn't the best thing for her son, you know, a moral dilemma of like, what should I do? Should I be a fan of my husband or a fan of my son? And to watch her turn that on and say like, I'm a fucking librarian. It was like this empowering moment for a female to step into her power and like own that to her obviously crazy husband.
Well, and she has a moment in 6 where she says, I bet most people when they're in it don't know the difference between a difficult marriage and a bad one, I think is the line.
Oh, what a great line.
And it's like you tell yourself all these things to stay in relationships, and sometimes they're correct.
Yeah.
You know, hey, not everybody can be everything to everybody else, and compare and despair and all these other things. And you say all that to yourself.
Yeah.
But then that's a good way to talk yourself into staying into an unhealthy relationship. And my theory with Ashley was she's been doing that for at least a year by the time we meet her.
Clearly.
You know.
Yeah, so. she's dimmed herself to placate him.
Just to get it, just because she doesn't want to have to do this again.
To go through it with her son again, especially when his dad's moving across the country. Yeah, I thought that was really powerful because that's such a great way to look at things. Like so many people stay in it for the kids or whatever, and who wants to put their kid through it a second time. But it seems like Emmett's going to have a really cool character in the rest of the season.
We shall see.
But I'm not sure. I've only seen the 4 episodes, but... Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer all
God.
these questions.
Thank you.
Last
Great.
one. What book are you reading right now? Or are you reading right now?
I'm reading. Oh shoot, what's it called? Hang on, I took a picture and showed it to my brother. It's I'm reading a book. I think there's this incredible. I think the best writer
Well, now I'm going to have to read it.
about the entertainment business is a guy named Sam Wasson. He wrote an incredible book called The Big Goodbye about the making of Chinatown.
Okay.
He has another one called Fifth Avenue 5 a.m. and it's about the making of both Breakfast and Tiffany's and how Audrey Hepburn turned into a cultural icon.
Oh, wow.
And my younger daughter, is obsessed with Audrey Hepburn.
Okay.
And Breakfast at Tiffany's. And we were wandering around New York together for the Tribeca Film Festival, and I saw that book, and I said, "You'll love this when you're a little older, and you can get it." So I grabbed it, and then I started reading it, and I was like, "This book's fantastic."
That's awesome.
The writer's just so good that it's subject matter that I personally don't care too much about.
But you can get into.
My daughter loves Audrey Hepburn. My daughter loves Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
But the idea of how somebody became a cultural icon and all the people who were involved in the swimming in the same sea at the same time, Truman Capote and Babe Paley and
Just to watch it all unfold.
It's really, really cool.
It is. It only happens every so often too, where they're just such like a Britney Spears, like a cultural icon, Marilyn Monroe.
Icon.
Yeah,
well, that's her other
yeah.
obsession.
It's like how did that go? How old is she?
She's 13.
Yeah, I was the same at that age too. The makeup and all of it, I loved her. So
that was it.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I really just wanted to take a really good picture, if you're cool with that.
I don't take really good pictures, but go for it.
Okay. Well, I have to. I feel like we should remake the one that I had in Stoneham.